So, what to expect in the workshop that we have put together for many professionals so far? And we would like to have you specifically join us with your team in a 5-to-1 small setup or one-on-one setup and discuss all the things that you want to know about artificial intelligence. Because one of the things that we have seen over and over that professionals that comes to our workshop, they have lots of knowledge about artificial intelligence in a silo manner, in a scattered manner, right? So some very sparse kind of knowledge. But what we were able to do is in a small gathering, we were able to tie up all the knowledges together and create a cohesive, actionable items for each participant. So let's say, for example, if it's just a one-on-one, you will have lots of knowledge from YouTube videos. You will have lots of knowledge from Udemy, Coursera, or just some portal that your company paid for in order for you to be educated on this AI topic, data topic, ML ops, data ops, AI ops, so many topics that you can think of. But that means that there are parsed data that was used for universal use cases, not necessarily for your use case. So there's a lot of these unknown unknowns that we talk about in order to address the cloud. How does cloud work out for AI, and how does and hardware that you own and you process the data internally in your premise, on-prem versus in cloud. And these sort of discussion brought out the cost factors, the fear factors, ability to get more curious about AI rather than to have some fear behind it, how to maintain the ownership of this artificial intelligence, specifically the data portfolio that you have to create, either for your business or for your small business or just for your organization that you are maybe part of a government agency, right? So think of it from perspective of if you have lots of knowledge in this workshop, we help you to understand. Okay, so the next one is meet the expert. Um, so our expertise goes back decades, and I have subject matter expertise in AI machine learning since 2015. I started working on ethical hacking, using Linux tools to hack in to figure out the value of the data because I did that in school. But prior to that, I was in the U.S. military, where that was my job is to protect the bases from being infiltrated from outside. So we're using fiber wires or cameras that are highly sophisticated, using wide surveillance thermal imagers. We would detect attacks. So it was an easier transition for me to think from physical security perspective to the digital security perspective. And eventually, I moved into the data part of things because I saw the values in data right away. And back in 2015, even though I stayed with ethical hacking for a long time, mainly on the GRC side of things, where I helped companies understand the vulnerabilities with their data and how GRC applies to securing those data. So that's just me, and we also have team members that are large language model subject matter experts, can help you understand ChatGPT very well, and how to align those ChatGPT, maybe the large language model that is not ChatGPT based, for your company's use cases, right? How do you use it for finance industry? How do you use it for manufacturing? We can answer all of that for you in real time. And jokingly, I say, you can use ChatGPT or us. But sometimes ChatGPT just doesn't give you the full picture because maybe the question that you have is not what ChatGPT is very familiar with. So what we can do is help you identify how to frame the question correctly. And as you frame the questions correctly, you will no longer need us. You will just have ChatGPT do all the answering for you. If there's ChatGPT that is not your favorite, you have Claude, you have Perplexity, you have large language model that you can download from the internet and put it inside of your laptop and make that large language model work on your behalf. So I just mentioned two people out of about 8 subject matter experts. We have digital twin subject matter experts, change management subject matter experts. The roster is pretty wide because we would like you to have the comfort of knowing that if you engage with us, anybody that you have in your team that has a specific questions and they want it to be answered in a specific format, we're able to get you that answers in real time. So I'm looking forward to having you join us and meet our subject matter experts. We meet on a bi-weekly basis just to give you the glimpse into what are some of the things that you might be interested in. Like we talk about digital twin cybersecurity, but also what about the power consumption of artificial intelligence? How do you keep the cost from ballooning up? How do you do AI on your backyard rather than somebody else's backyard in a data center far away from where you live? So I'm looking forward to answering all the questions for you. And please join us on a bi-weekly basis, Mondays and Fridays, where we talk about artificial intelligence and give you the answers that you need in order to take actions on artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is being discussed for the last hundreds of years, and one component that has been missing is the hardware part of it. So when we talk to the customers about 6 years ago through workshops, we try to educate them about the fact that the data in-house and software outsourced is a good solution, but the hardware piece of it was really, really difficult to fathom because 6 years ago, the hardwares that we have today were not available as much as it is today. So 6 years ago, if you think about it, one of the tragedy we've seen during 2020 is the lack of GPUs because people were outbidding each other to get their hands on GPUs for the purposes of cryptocurrency, the blockchain mining. So this blockchain capabilities from 2019-ish, they were utilized for specific purposes. So the supply and demand was really bad because the supply was so demand was so high, the supply wasn't really there, the price shot up. But today, if you look at it, the prices are stabilizing, and it's also enabling the factor that maybe you don't need to train your data anymore offshore or off somebody's backyard. That you're not the owner of the data anymore, right? Because you don't know what happens to the data once it left your backyard. So if you have control over that data and you're able to train those data, and that training doesn't cost you really more than what it would cost you in a cloud space, you have a winning proposition here, because this data that you control in your backyard, you're able to grow exponentially those data for your use case purposes, and you're able to control and maintain those data. And data portfolio that we necessarily don't think about a lot will be based off of where does that data lay, right? So if you're thinking about how to get started with artificial intelligence 2025, um, you know, come and see us, right? But if you already have some actions in place and you would like to improve that, you would like to secure it, or maybe you're having a gut feeling that there's some vulnerability check that you have to do, risk management, associated risk with how it is that you're going about with your data ops, ML ops, or AI ops, we're here to help with that. Right. Like I said, we have about 8 subject matter experts. We can talk to you about chips. We can talk to you about the data management side of things, change management side of things, the human psychology behind it, right? The people, process, and technology. We have majority of those things that you need. So I'm looking forward to having you sign up and join us. The benefit of joining a Smart AI community is that you don't have to necessarily come to us every week, right? You learn as you see fit, right? You come to us and you join us on a open topic basis, and you walk through what it is that you need to learn. But you also learn from other members in that community, because one of the things that we have done, and that's been very much our success use case, is that we've been able to teach professionals that are specialists on something other than artificial intelligence, something that's far from technology. And everybody uses technology. So what we do is, instead of teaching them about technology, we teach them about what it is that they know and how technology mixes into it. So let's say, for example, one good example is that IO psychologist, industrial organizational psychologist, that will be least likely to implement an AI solution, but now they have understanding of AI in a way that really makes sense to them, and they really see the urgency. But the best part of it is that they're able to communicate about these artificial intelligence solutions. And in order to do that, they didn't have to go to school for 8 weeks, or they didn't have to go to MIT for 18 weeks program. Some of the people that went to those schools for 18, 19 weeks, they come back and they say, you know what, there's lots of learning, but it's mainly there for the networking purposes. It's not that I can communicate better about AI now, but I was able to network with a lot of people. So what they bill you and charge you, you develop a good, solid network. But within that network, are you able to communicate with each other about this AI machine learning solutions? That's not the focus, right? So our focus is how it is that you as a professional can communicate, specifically advocate for your needs. So SMART, S stands for specialist, M is for methods, A for advocates, R for research and training, right? T for training. So the specialist that can understand the methods of AI and advocate through research and training for what it is that they do and how AI impacts it is our main focus. Is that you are able to communicate with your team, with your investors, with the decision makers, other stakeholders, and bring them together to drive the narrative that you think best fits your team is our goal. Now, if you're not leading a team, but you are a member of a team and you're being communicated to about artificial intelligence, that serves another purpose. You're able to understand what's being communicated and where the gap lies. You're able to identify that. One core component that we talked about with AI machine learning over the last few years is the AI washing, right? Lot of discussions, lots of the discussions are about what AI can do, but there's not enough discussions about what AI cannot do. And these AI cannot do is not a selling point. So you really have to know the other side of what's not possible by AI and what is called AI washing that happens very frequently. And there's a levels of AI washing that we can discuss. And we would love to walk you through some of these things that you need to know, which is a basic universal formula that applies to all the AIs. And if you're able to communicate using those terminologies, I think the success of smart AI community presents itself very well through our experience and communication. Some of the benefits of artificial intelligence doesn't necessarily apply only to the enterprises. What it actually applies to is the small businesses, so small startups. Or a business unit that is running like a startup within a big corporations, they're able to adapt to artificial intelligence and actually apply a lot of the use cases within their ecosystem. So just like that ecosystem of small or large businesses, if you drop the ecosystem of what it is that you do, not necessarily on a quarterly basis or a yearly basis, but day-to-day operation, you literally can draw up a picture of where the AIs fit in. And for the small business, that's perfect because small businesses have a lot of activities and they're very sporadic, right? Versus enterprises, they have very structured alignment of, let's say, for example, project management or agile methodologies to understand how AI fits in. So when you have to adopt an AI, small businesses are far more adaptable to these AI use cases than enterprises are. But however, if you look at it from the small business perspective within an enterprise level business, as in if you're an enterprise and you have lots of small business units, this business units individually can adopt to artificial intelligence a lot faster than an enterprise itself. Let's say, for example, the headquarters are able to adopt and spread it out through the rest of the business units. So as a small business, you have more capability of developing the data portfolio that you need in order to be successful in the AI space, not for 10 years ago, but 10 years down the road or even 10 months down the road. Because there's a rule of 80-20 that is really to be followed. That 20% comes from the organization because the other 80% comes from, let's say, AI service provider or vendor. If Microsoft or Splunk gives you 80%, 20% falls into your hand in order to maintain those data and have those data work with this other 80%. So that there's a full picture of 100% that you can execute on artificial intelligence and reap the benefit of not wasting time, right? Because a lot of the AIs that are really being delivered from outside, they waste a lot of time, but they don't really produce the results. And as a matter of fact, enterprises are not really adopting artificial intelligence at this point because there's so much of these wasted time in adopting AI. And when it's adopted and implemented, it really doesn't produce the expected outcome. Let's think about your business and let's see where the ecosystem of your business is today with technology and how we incorporate AI into it. So that way things get better, faster, and cheaper. One of the key focus we have in our community and our workshop is that you really are somebody who's non-technical. If you have a technical background, that's great. We love to have technical folks in our discussion. The way we help the technical folks is that we will have their non-technical stakeholders, decision makers, business unit managers, or data owners come together with them and say, hey, I'm the techie and I would like you to understand AI from my perspective, or let me help you understand AI from my perspective. And if you have an AI perspective that you have, share with me, and we will talk in a circle in a roundtable manner discussion, so that way we have a team alignment. That team alignment with techies and non-techies is super important today, because going forward we're not going to do techies do this and non-techies does this, right? Because of this thing called feedback loop monitoring and triggering within the AI space. Once you deploy an AI solution, everybody has to understand what that means as far as technicality goes of feedback loop. So these AIs are really expensive when you implement them. You don't want your non-techie members of your team to say, well, that's a tech problem because I don't do coding. I don't do programming. I don't do a lot of these tech work that other techies do. It's not like that anymore. It's shifting more towards, if you are a non-techie person, how do you provide and communicate your feedback to the artificial intelligence so that techies can address it on the back end, right? So you are now the tech users who's going to take the ownership of the technology that you use, which is artificial intelligence based technology. And this artificial intelligence is intelligent enough to take your feedback and learn a new methods and new process of doing things on your behalf. So, quick example of that will be AI agents. Even if the techies are delivering you with AI agents, these AI agents belongs to you. They are under your account. So you have to be responsible owner of these AI agents and be able to have it perform the way you need it to perform. It can learn on its own, but some of the kinks and some of the low code, no code solutions, you really have to be the owner of this AI agent and make it perform the way you need it to perform. So some of the KPIs that you will have set up for this AI agent, it does take a whole lot of effort to figure out that what you do today will make impact for the next 48 hours or 48 months. So you really have to be cautious of how it is that you interact with the AI agent and understand some of the logics of what this AI agent does in order to accomplish the task you're handing to the AI. So one of the questions that comes up a lot is, how are you preparing for 2025 and beyond? Well, we've been asking, how do you prepare for next year and beyond for the last 10 years? 10 years ago, when I was developing a geospatial solution that was based on recommender system to help people get the services that they need from a small mom and pop shops, right? So using geospatial data, the location of the person, location of the business, we were trying to use recommender system to get people there. It was a small startup. There was a lot of data privacy violations that was going to happen if we were to launch the system the way we intended to. Today, the data privacy is far removed from that, because literally on your phone and your insurance company are working together to look at your data and make sure that you're not driving fast, you're not, standing in the red light and looking at your phone. So these are all sorts of things that we couldn't do 10 years ago, but 10 years later, it's not a big deal at all. We literally give away the data privacy to the companies so that the companies can track everything we're working on doing our businesses, and have the ability to give us a rating or a score and bill us more or bill us less, right? So going forward, if you have a concerns in 2025 about data privacy today, that data privacy will become very apparent in the next few months or few years. And how's that going to happen? Well, people that are ready to find out, they're in the cloud space already, and they're looking to say, well, I'm paying 2.5 times more than what I anticipated paying for cloud back in 10 years ago. Now I'm going to have to start adjusting how it is that I'll pay for cloud going forward, and what happens if the cost balloons again, because cost has been ballooning in cloud space for a very long time. So now we really have to think about, okay, what it is that we do about data privacy, and what if I'm in the cloud, and what happens to my data because there is no privacy and I cannot control that data anymore because it's in the cloud. So you really have to think through a strategy that is not just AI based, but all the data based, because your data portfolio is something that you have to sell. The data portfolio is part of your exit plan in your business or your corporation's portfolio. So you really have to think through what happened to the data privacy for the last 10 years, what's going to happen next, and where are the hardwares and software and the data that I need in order to operate my business without losing ground. Because you have a competitive edge if you're in the cloud. And your competitors, if they're not in the cloud, they might have a competitive edge, but we don't know that yet, because we have to calculate the fact that cost of data in motion, data at rest, and data at use, it depends on who's holding the data, who's controlling those data, and who's using those data, right? So let's talk about preparing for 2025 and beyond, because that's something that we've specialized for the last 6 years at minimum. Because, like I said, 10 years ago when we started, these were the concerns that we had, and these are the same concerns that we will have going forward. And how do we address it? I think it's a matter of understanding the ownership and responsibility and the governance of those technology. Majority of the participants in our workshop gets away with the confidence of the ability to communicate better. In a big setup, 30 or 40 people setup, there is no one-on-one personalized interaction. So what we do is that one-on-one or 5-to-1 conversations where those other four people could be from your team or could be just general professionals who has the need for understanding artificial intelligence. And the benefit we've seen is that a CIO, CFO, or even an HR, and then a, let's say for example, new guy who's literally learning how to do a business analyst role, or somebody who's in cybersecurity, right? Somebody who's not necessarily techie either, right? There's a diverse group of people. They're able to put their perspectives together and understand from each other's need and the ability to communicate to each other about their needs and how that need is being met with artificial intelligence or machine learning. That confidence allows people to do is audit and question about what it is that they need to know in order to make decisions on that artificial intelligence, either to use it, to buy it, or to develop it. Whatever the case is, they're able to ask the questions to the vendors in a confident manner. Why is that important? Because lots of these AI solutions, and I hate to say it, they're fraudulent. They have lots of fake AI. Companies buy AI product because it says .ai on the label. Just because it's .ai on the label on the website and the vendor's portfolio does not mean it has AI in it. So are you able to ask the questions like, is your system based on learner system, or is your system based on some SQL and a database, right? And those sort of understanding allows team of HR personnel or a team of let's say business analysts to ask those questions very confidently and clearly. And when they get the answers back, they're able to push back or accept the fact that it is a learner system and it's able to learn multiple variables and execute differently tomorrow, and continuously going forward. So these are some of those actionable plans that we enable customers or attendees to come to our workshop with. But if you think about it, what you have learned actually is the infrastructure. So if you have to take more actions based on the AI decision making that you have to do, how do you put together a plan? How do you communicate? How do you draw up that infrastructure? It's literally what's being discussed on our workshop, and we do that in a fast-paced manner because in AI space, data collection that doesn't happen 6 years ago, excuse me, data collection that hasn't happened 6 hours ago could means that it's a year worth of data in some spaces, right? Because this irrelevant data that we don't know much of today could end up being the most relevant data that we will need for the future. So there's a need for data cataloging. There's a need to understand this data metadata. Just many ways that you have to approach data in order to be sophisticated enough to say, I'm pretty confident that whatever I don't have today, I can develop it tomorrow. And there's actionable things that I can do today without spending a penny in buying expensive hardware from NVIDIA or reseller vendors that are sending me offers for GPUs and CPUs or hours in cloud space, right? So you have lots of these needs, and I would like to see you join our workshop, take your idea into execution, or if you have executions already, how do you optimize it even further for the purposes of the future? I would love to show you the ropes and give you the lay of the land and give you some of the confidence that you need in order to communicate those better. If you're interested in those one-on-one discussions, we have a one-on-one setup called AI and You. If you're interested, just let me know and I'll set you up with one of those AI and You conversation. And the specific about the AI and You is that you are able to dictate how the conversation will go, right? Because if you have an interest in computer vision, you don't really need to know everything about computer vision. You need to know what it is that you need to know based on your subject matter expertise. So if you're a program manager, that's great. But if you're a program owner or project owner or a product owner, you really have to think about it from a different perspective. And that's what we specialize on. We give you the glimpse into the space that you need to look into, rather than to say you need to learn everything about AI. Well, if you want to learn everything about AI, we are here for you. But within a small 2 to 3 hour session, how it is that we draw up the map for you, because you're a busy executive or a busy professional who doesn't have time to go to school for 8 weeks or 8 days, right? You don't have time to get away from your family or get away from your work, or you don't want to take a break. Whatever the case is, come to us for 2 to 3 hours. In a one-on-one discussions, we're able to give you far more than what you will achieve in a group of 10, 20, 30 people that are attending a course and learning about universal use cases and not necessarily your use case. Because see, every business has a problem and every business has their own problem. So no matter how many times I can draw the thread between other people's problem, really your problem is very specific and unique to you. And there's a specific reason why you're developing artificial intelligence and how that artificial intelligence will impact what it is that you do. Of course, we'll talk more about the ownership and responsibility of these AIs, but point is, if you have a need for it today, that need will change tomorrow. So how do you create a scalable and sustainable solution? And send me an email reply back, and I'll be able to walk you through what it is that you need in going forward